Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode. I'm really excited about today's guest, Cameron Race, and he's got a very inspiring story. And today's topic is going to be all about masculinity, unshakable confidence, mindset, resiliency. And just for the audience, there's a little bit of construction, so we'll try our best to block out the noise. And so, Cameron, welcome.
Hey, how's it going, Christopher? I appreciate you having me on the show.
Yeah, actually, we were talking backstage, and you've got a really fantastic story, and I really love talking about this showing up in this energy, which we'll get to later in the show. But start off by talking about your journey and your background, what you do, and we'll get right into it.
Absolutely. Listen, again, thank you so much for having me. So, kind of where the story begins, or where we're going to start it here, is in my teenage years. So, and when I was a teenager, I started experimenting with first started smoking cigarettes, and then some alcohol, marijuana. Started selling marijuana to kind of pay for the habit. Moved into some other drugs, and spent some time in and out of jail, and then realized, this isn't what I want for my life. So I stopped selling the drugs. I went to college, ended up going down the corporate route for the last 10 years. And but however, I did struggle with some drug usage over the last 10 years. And what happened was, most recently I was working as a commercial banker, and I found out back in August that my wife was pregnant with our second child. And then a few days later, I was notified that my job and my whole department had been eliminated due to a reduction in workforce. And so with that, I, kind of went introspective, and I, of course, was looking for other job opportunities. But as you may know, that process is not one that happens overnight. And so within the time period where I lost my job and was interviewing for a new job and got another job offer, I really, really went inwards. And so I dropped the alcohol. I adopted an early morning wake up time. I get up between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. every morning. I spend time reading and reflecting. And then I go in and I work out between 5 and 7 a.m. And then when I get home, it's time for the family. Between 7 and 8:30 or 9, I'm spending time with my son right now, who's about 20 months old, and my wife. And then the rest of my day is spent trying to be outwardly focused and helping other people. And so, what I'm doing now is I'm trying to help other people that have been on the same path as me. Again, I definitely have a checkered past, but I've set my life in this positive direction. And knowing how much my life has changed and how good I feel, I lacked fulfillment for so many years. And now I feel just an exorbitant amount of fulfillment. And so with that, I just, I have to be a beacon for other people that are struggling and may need some help, moving in a positive direction. So,
Yeah, a common theme among podcast guests or hosts is kind of this could be a checkered past, could be a addiction, could be a some trauma or tragedy, and they turn it into some source of strength to help others to share it. And what better medium, podcasting, YouTube, speaking, all these influence, thought leadership means and ways and avenues, which is one really thing that really came to my mind when you were talking, is this idea of showing up, being consistent, putting in the work. And even though may not see the payout today, but if you come in and show up with the right energy, the rewards will come. So kind of talk about that, because a lot of people are like, I ain't getting paid, so I'm not going to do it. Or this, kind of this kind of transactional or very selfish way. So talk about your strategy.
sure. No, that's excellent, Christopher. It's a great question, a great area to come, to expand upon. So first, I'll tell you this: in order to stay the course, you have to find a purpose that is greater than yourself. And so for me, what happened was, it started out selfish. I said, I want to be the man that I look up to, and then moreover than that, I want to be the man that my family can look to for guidance. And then thirdly, that other people can look to for inspiration. And so with that as the guiding principle, then now, the focus is just putting in those daily habits every single day, showing up for my family, for myself, for these other people. And as long as I know that I'm putting in my max effort, as long as I'm continuing to check the boxes that I tell myself I'm going to every day, that early morning wake up time, the time reading and reflecting, going to the gym, these are positive wins that I'm stacking day after day. And by doing that, you're building your self-confidence. And that's really what so many people lack these days. They lack the self-confidence. That's what I lacked. I spent a lot of time with the drugs and the alcohol because I felt I was lacking something. I lacked fulfillment. And I thought that the answers would come from the bottom of the bottle or me, trying to find myself in these drugs. And that's not the answer. Those are just patches, right? And it doesn't even have to be drugs and alcohol. So many people today, they spend their time going, binging Netflix or, scrolling on their phones. What it is it's devoid of thought. You have got to be comfortable with exploring your mind. And that's why, again, my daily process is so important, because for, 4 hours every morning, I'm spending time working on myself and collecting my own thoughts and starting to really form opinions, thoughts, ideas. And that's what it takes to build confidence.
Yeah, I love that. One thing that was really stand out to me is if basically if you disappear for a month and do what you do, you can accomplish in 1 month what normal people would take 1 year, 2 years, maybe even 10 years. So just get those reps in. So the other question is this talking about is mindset first. Talk about how you your process, your mindset, and just becoming an unshakable man.
Yeah, listen, first we'll start off by saying we're all human, right? And so here's a great example of that. So January 5th, I missed my wake up window. The thing is if I go to sleep at 9 o'clock at night, or if I go to sleep at midnight, I still wake up between 3 and 4 a.m. And so January 5th, I missed my wake up time. I was really upset with myself. But what I've realized now is that I'm not helping anybody, including myself, if I beat myself up over that. So when I wake up and I'm upset that I missed that wake up hour, then I'm in a low frequency state. And the whole thing is you have to elevate yourself to this high frequency state. And so the quicker that you can realize that, everything that you do, there are repercussions to what you do. You're either building yourself up positively or negatively. So you can even take a negative situation and you can boost yourself to a higher place. And so when I missed my wake up time, I just said, listen, I'm sitting in this feeling for a few seconds, and I realize that this is not where I want to be. This is not who I am anymore. And so what can I do to make sure that I avoid this feeling again in the future? And so again, it's so much about recognizing what your state is, because again, we're all human. We have high and low frequency states, and we're moving between those all the time. And if you haven't spent time working on yourself, then you will really have to focus on what your state of mind is. And you'll have to put in, it's auto suggestion. So you need to be constantly telling yourself positive thoughts, positive affirmations, thinking towards those high frequency states. Anger is even a high frequency state. So if you wake up and you're mad at yourself, that is really like the bottom of a high frequency state. So it's okay to be mad. Listen, I missed my fucking wake up time, but you gotta get back up. You gotta be gracious for the fact that you woke up that day. You have to be outwardly focused. That's so much. You can really only be outwardly focused or inwardly focused. When you're outwardly focused, that's really where those high frequency states come. When you start going inward, that's when those low frequency states really, that's when you're vibrating in a low state. So
one thing that I've especially with the New Year's, you talked about resolutions, and a lot of people are very ambitious, and they set out and then kind of they have like these minor setbacks. So, talk about expand upon this idea of spiraling, because for example, let's say you have a say an argument with your spouse, or just kind of something happens and kind of frustration. How do you snap out of it? How do you prevent yourself from spiraling and just kind of ruining your momentum?
Yeah, it's a great question. Again, every single day I spend time reading and reflecting. The reflection is spent journaling. And so every day I'm checking in on myself, how my previous day went. So that's so much of where the personal development and the growth happens, is me spending time on my own thoughts. And so 100%, look, I have a 20-month-old son. This man is running all over the house. He's climbing on countertops. I mean, he's getting into everything. So, I have to self-regulate constantly. But again, it's who do I want to show up as for my family. And again, it goes back to my purpose. I want to be the man that I look up to, the man that my family can look to for direction, and that others can look to for inspiration. And so when I start to break down and I get upset, I let my emotions take control, then I have to realize really quickly, I have to snap out of that and go, this is not who I am. This may be a past version of me. This may be the version of me right now, but it doesn't have to be me going forward. And again, so it's all about this frequency. And the longer that you're on this personal development journey, the easier that it will be to self-regulate. In the beginning, it's extremely tough, again, because your conscious mind, you have years and years possibly of all this negative bullshit that's trying to flow in to your train of thought. And so you have to push it out. And so the more you can do this auto suggestion, the more you can spend time in a positive state, then it starts working its way into your subconscious mind. And then what's happening is that part of your brain is knocking, going, hey, Cam, this is not you. And you go, oh shit, this isn't. And it brings you back. And so that's the beautiful part about this journey, is that the further along that I get, the more it's just like, Chris, I just can't believe that it took me so long to get here. It's such a blessing. And that's again why I just feel such motivation to help other people, because I know how great this feels. And I feel everyone needs to feel this.
Yeah. Yeah, one thing, the other question is, so for example, just like kind of like a real life example is, everybody's waiting for, the economy to get better. We're coming out of a COVID, a lockdown, takes 3 to 4 years to fully recover. We've got war, we've got inflation, we've got an election, we've got social, political strife, interest, and one guy controls interest rates. So, kind of like the victim would say, oh, how can I plan? How can I get married? How can I have kids? How can I start a business with all of this, right? And then, or just like when COVID happened, it's like, so how do you reframe your thought from victim to victor?
Yeah, listen, great question. For me, you named a bunch of external circumstances that are completely outside of my control. And so, I've never been one that had a victim mentality. I certainly drug myself through the mud, but I've always been relatively positive. I always had a good outlook on life, and I've always focused on what's within my sphere of control. Even when I was doing the drugs, I lacked fulfillment. I killed it in my career. I just got my W-2 in from last year, and I made 200 grand last year. And now I've started this business coaching people, and I'm starting at $0. So, you're talking about all these external circumstances that are completely outside of my control. The thing for me is, how do I grow a business and get back to a place where I can support my family? And again, what that goes back to, and so I think that this ties back to your question, is you have to do what's within your sphere of influence. And so what's within my sphere of influence? Every day to hit on the things that I told myself that I was going to do. It's really, it just comes down to these really simple, basic tasks. The hard part is sticking with it, to be disciplined and do it day in and day out. Because every time you miss, you've now told your brain, nope, I'm not somebody that follows through. And so you just have to follow through every single day. You know what I mean? I mean, the best thing that I can do is show up as the best version of myself and influence other people to do the same thing. That's the only way that I know how to actually affect change.
Yeah. Wonderful. What are some resources? I know what you're talk about, sounds a lot, Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, and, Tony Robbins. Kind of talk about influences, books, resources that helped you, and how people can find you and, reach out to you if they need coaching or want to learn more about you.
Sure. So listen, I've been ingesting personal development material since I was a teenager. My dad got me onto personal development when I was a teenager, and I fought against him so hard. There was a time in my life when he said, for every audio tape that you listen to, tape, by the way, we're not even talking CDs, these were tapes. For every audio tape that you listen to, I'll pay you $1. And so I draw from all these different sources. There's not one different thing. I come back to, like you said, Napoleon Hill, some Think and Grow Rich, some Robert Kiyosaki, Most recently, the gentleman is super brash, but I absolutely love him. He's a mentor of mine, Wes. He's really a in your face, tell you what you need to hear, not what you think you need to hear, and not sugarcoating it. And so that's somebody that came into my life at this time where I really needed the wake up call. And so, he's somebody that has been inspiring me lately. And I definitely tune into some of his, podcasts, things of that nature. But to find me, so I'm on Instagram. I post every single day. I'm posting my daily routine in my stories, and then I have reels where I'm, getting a little deeper, sharing some more of the deeper thought. And so, if you'd like to check me out, follow along on the journey. If you need any help, that's the best place to reach out to me. The Instagram handle is Cameron_race. That's CAMERON_race, RACE.
Entrepreneurs and just people like, especially personal development. I'm always trying to grow and improve. Still have a ways to go, and that's why I love having guys like you on the show. And for all the audience out there, be sure to follow Cameron on Instagram and share his socials, and all of his resources will be in the links and show notes. And thanks so much for an inspiring talk.
Christopher, I hope you have a wonderful afternoon.